Qu'est-ce que t'as fait? T'es mon père, toi?
Pourquoi tu vas papa, toi?
Attends, c'est quoi, toi? T'es ma mère maintenant ou quoi? Attends une seconde. Hey, pourquoi t'es pas à l'école, toi, d'abord?
Mais elle a brûlé l'école.
Oh là là, brûler
Bon, bah.
l'école, quel sauvage. On commence comme ça et on finit par plus aller à la
Merci.
synagogue.
Mamie,
Quoi?
c'est pas moi qui brûlais l'école.
Mais
Et
tu
rap,
vas
mamie.
pas à la synagogue non
Ok,
plus.
d'accord, ok. Là, bon, je suis c'est
Si
bon.
tout le monde t'y part au courant à chaque discussion, ça finira par une belle débandade.
Ah mais au moins on irait tous dans la même direction, mamie.
Hello, this is Walker Babson, a student at Purdue University, and today I'm going to be talking about the evolution of conversation in French cinema.
Alors qu'il t'oblige à partir.
Oui. Une envie. Oh, tu es énervante, à quoi ça rime?
Tu connais William Faulkner?
Jules, ça vous va tellement pas que ça vous va très bien.
இது நல்லா இருக்கு. ஓகே?
எது?
நாங்கள் எப்படி கதைக்கிறது நல்லா இருக்கு.
Now, what makes up a conversation? Here in this early example from the 1931 film Marius, we see basic conversation. We have Marius, the son of a bar owner, talking to Fanny, his childhood friend and secret admirer. The conversation goes back and forth with them talking, but there's one thing missing from modern filmmaking. Cuts. This is the first cut in the scene. 1 minute and 20 seconds in, and only serving to move the scene inside to a wide shot. The next one comes another minute and a half later with a medium shot. Then, back to the original wide 30 seconds later. Onto an over-the-shoulder two-shot to end the scene. This is about 5 minutes long, and not much action to hold the viewer's attention. Let's compare this to a more modern film, the 2015 film, Deepan.
Tu veux? En tout cas, ton mari, il a l'air de bien faire son boulot. C'est bien.
Merci.
D'ailleurs, si vous avez besoin de quoi que ce soit, si je peux vous aider, s'il vous souffle, il vous casse tous les couilles.
Oh, d'accord.
Bon, moi j'y vais. Et je te laisse ça pour le manger. Parce que c'est très bon ce que tu fais.
Merci.
What is the first thing you notice about this scene? Is it the camera angles? Is it the closeness? For me, it is all of these things. Compare this to the scene from Marius, where there's mainly one plane of interaction between the characters and the same outsider camera angle throughout the scene. The one from Deepan is a lot more intimate and evolving. It draws the viewer in and makes them try to see the scene through the character's eyes, not just one from an outside perspective. Now, that's not the fault of Marius. They simply hadn't gotten there yet. You have to look at the origins of film to see why this is. This is George Millet's Trip to the Moon from 1902. It is considered by some to be the grandfather of cinema as we know it today, and it gives us a great look into where cinematic tradition comes from. In the beginning, films mainly resemble plays, only to be filmed and using elementary camera tricks to spice things up. It's easy to see how closely this film resembles a play. The wide angle, actors sticking to mainly one plane of movement, and a static viewpoint. A lot of this had to do with the technical limitations of cameras back then, but also because the concepts of basic cinema had not been developed yet. Now let's jump forward 30 years, and look at the earlier scene from Marius. This was part of the first wave of talkie films, so the theory of filming a conversation had still not been fully developed. Because of this, they went back to what worked before: theater. Now what really gets me about this scene is the wide angle of the shot, because it disconnects the viewer from the character's emotions and doesn't let us see the most important parts of a conversation: the reaction.
Like I'm not free because I'm unhappy.
Take a look at this scene from the 1960 film Breathless, where an agent is telling a story to his writer. What's important here is not his story, but her reaction to the story, giving us more of an insight into her mind.
Tout de suite, je lui ai envoyé un pneumatique où je lui disais que j'avais complètement oublié de lui dire qu'on devrait coucher ensemble. 3 heures après, je reçois un pneumatique d'elle, où elle disait « C'est extraordinaire, cette coïncidence. J'ai eu exactement la même idée en faisant déjeuner. »
Next, we'll jump forward another 30 years to Diva, filmed in 1981 and one of the quintessential cinema de look films. Here, a post-boy Jules is meeting his opera singer crush Cynthia Hawkins for the first time. Notice how the scene pays specific attention to Cynthia here, following her and only showing Jules a couple of times. She's the object of his desires, the person whom the events of the film revolve around, even though she's not the main character. This is a wonderful example of how to express importance without outright exposition. When she's in a scene, she steals the attention of the viewer, giving us a greater understanding of how Jules feels like when meeting her for the first time. Notice how the scene also takes place in a three-dimensional space, contrasting with those earlier films. Let's move back to Deepan for a last look at what I consider to be a great example of a modern conversation in film, full of personal emotion and feeling. In this scene, Deepan is trying to gain asylum from France as a refugee, but would be denied if his actual story came out. Here I'd pay special attention to his face, giving us a glimpse of his character and allowing us to connect with him on a further emotional level.
Essayez de m'expliquer pourquoi et comment vous êtes parti du Sri Lanka.
நான் ஒரு என்ஜிஓவில் வேலை செய்து வந்தேன். சமானத்துக்கான வேலை செய்த ஒரு பத்திரிகையாளர். அப்போ என் மேலே வந்து அரசாங்கம் சந்தேகப்படுது.
கதை எனக்கு தெரியும். எல்லாரும் இந்த கதை சொல்கிறீர்கள். சமானம் வேலை செய்து ஆறுமுடைய ஏஜென்ட் ஆகிட்டு சொன்னது. போராட்டத்தில் நீங்கள் என்ன பக்கம்?
நீங்கள் எந்த பக்கம்?
Qu'est-ce qui se passe? Vous pouvez traduire, s'il vous plaît?
C'est confus, je comprends pas très bien. உங்களோட உண்மையான பேர் என்ன?
சிவதாசன்.
Sivadasan.
C'est quoi Sivadasan, pardon?
C'est le nom d'un village au nord du Sri Lanka. நீ செத்து போனவெல்லோ கேள்விப்பட்டேன். உங்களோட ஃபேமிலி எங்க?
எல்லாரும் செத்து போச்சுண்ணா. இப்போ நான் இவர்கிட்ட என்ன சொல்லணும்?
இந்த எல்டிடி உங்களோட ஃபோர்ஸ் பண்ணல அவரோட வேலை செய்ய. இப்போ இந்த ஆர்மி வந்து உங்களோட பிடிச்சு அடித்து கொலை சொல்கிறன்னு சொல்லுங்க.
அப்போ ஆர்மி வந்து என்ன தேடி எனக்கு உடம்பெல்லாம் வெட்டி என்னை கொல்ல முயற்சி பண்ணவங்க.
Et donc l'armée l'a attrapé après l'avoir accusé d'avoir collaboré et ils les ont torturés.
D'accord, très bien. Et quel âge a l'enfant?
Even though there's no physical movement in the scene, there's movement power, with the outcome of the questioning being determined by an unknown variable, The camera angle is a close-up, giving the viewer a more intimate and claustrophobic feeling, mirroring the emotions of the main character. It is the culmination of these theories that let the scene be an excellent example of how far conversation has come. I think that the main difference between classic and modern film conversation is where the theory comes from. For older films, they borrow a lot from theatric tradition, projecting caricatures instead of characters. Modern cinema, however, takes a completely different approach, calling for introspection, delving into what makes us human, the little idiosyncrasies, details that show the underlying person. It is this shift in style that has allowed film to fully realize its potential as an art form, allowing for stories told and human experiences shared in a way that cannot be matched by any other medium.